Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Step Through the Ropes, Volume 37. I know I haven't done any of these in a long time, but here we go. Here we're going to discuss Marcus Alexander Buff Bagwell's numerous tag team partners throughout his time in WCW. Now, in those days, I was saying that Bagwell was tag team wrestler for life. In a sense, it could be true, because most of his WCW run he was in tag teams. He debuted near the end of 1991 as Marcus Alexander Bagwell and was dubbed the Rookie Sensation, and I believe the WCW magazine voted him the Rookie of the Year. Well, during his first year, he worked with the likes of Terry Taylor, who was known as the Tailor-Made Man. He was defeated by Greg the Hammer Valentine at the first Beach Blast pay-per-view, lost to Scotty Flamingo, who later became Raven at Wrestle War 92, and I don't think he did any more pay-per-views for the rest of that year. But in the year 1992, what could have been probably his biggest highlight, he started tagging up with the late Z-Man, Tom Zink. They didn't last too long as a tag team, and their biggest moment as a tag team was competing in the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament when they were defeated by Ravishing Rick Rude, R.I.P., and Stunning Steve Austin. In the year 1993, Bagwell kind of got a heck of a break as he started teaming up with High Flyer, Too Cold Scorpio, and I thought those guys were a great team, even though Bagwell, looking back, was still very young. Bagwell and Scorpio scored a victory over Bobby Eaton and Chris Benoit, the first Slamboree pay-per-view. They eventually got to win the tag team titles, giving Bagwell his first taste of tag team gold, as he and Scorpio defeated the Nasty Boys in a match that was taped in early October 1993. The Nasty Boys eventually regained the tag team title at Halloween Havoc later that month. Now, the title change of Scorpio and Bagwell winning the belts aired the night before Halloween Havoc. So they said they were, when the Nasty Boys regained the belts at Halloween Havoc of that year, they were saying on commentary that they held the belts for 24 hours, but it was actually a few weeks. Scorpio and Bagwell did not end up teaming together for the first and only Battle Bowl pay-per-view a month later. Bagwell teamed with Tex Slazenger, later became Phineas Godwin, and they lost to Slazenger's partner, Shanghai Pierce, later became Henry Godwin, and Ravishing Rick Rude. Scorpio, on the other hand, wound up teaming with Max Payne, who later became Man Mountain Rock, losing to Nature Boy Ric Flair and Stunning Steve Austin. The following month at Starrcade 93, Scorpio and Bagwell were defeated. They were defeated by the newly formed team of Pretty Wonderful, Paul Roma and the late Paul Orndorff. In 1994, Scorpio wound up leaving WCW, and then Bagwell was given a new partner, the Patriot, the late Del Wilkes, who had previously competed in the Global Wrestling Federation down in Dallas, Texas. Okay, I don't know if they were based in Dallas, but Bagwell and Patriot became a team, and they were known as Stars and Stripes. I was always impressed with Del Wilkes, the Patriot, may he rest in peace, while in the GWF, especially a great match he had with Al Perez. He and Bagwell wound up trading the tag team championship with Pretty Wonderful. Bagwell and Stars and Stripes beat Pretty Wonderful for the tag team title. I don't know if that was at the Fall Brawl 94 pay-per-view or not, but I know Pretty Wonderful regained the belts at Halloween Havoc 94, and then a month later at a Clash of Champions, Stars and Stripes regained the belts from Pretty Wonderful, and had Stars and Stripes lost, the Patriot would have had to unmask. Okay? Eventually, they lose the tag team belts to Harlem Heat, Booker T, and his brother Stevie Ray. The match was taped in December 1994, but did not air until January 1995. Then, speaking of that very year, in 95, the Patriot leaves WCW to go wrestle in Japan. Bagwell ends up ends up, I don't know how long he was by himself before being given his, let's see, if I kept count here, his fourth tag team partner, and it was Scotty Riggs, who I believe was Scott Studd in the USWA, and they were named the American Males, acting, obviously trying to be like chick magnets to the women out there, and I wasn't really a big fan of their theme music, and I actually refer to them as the American Meals, because you take the word males and change the letters around, you get meals, or you also get the word lames. Well, this was one of the longest teams Bagwell had been in. A short time after he and Riggs became a team, they won the tag team championship from Harlem Heat on a Monday Nitro, only to lose it back over a week later at a Saturday night taping to Harlem Heat. Then they were not doing much, didn't do much for the rest of 1995. They were still teaming in 96. Okay. Then in 1997, the night after the World War III pay-per-view, Bagwell gets his biggest moment in the sun as he joins the New World Order and was eventually christened Buff Bagwell. He ended up working with former tag partner Scotty Riggs as he defeated Riggs in January 1997 at the first and only NWO pay-per-view titled Sold Out. Bagwell ended up wrestling Diamond Dallas Page a month later at Super Brawl 7, losing by disqualification when other members of the NWO interfered or attempted to interfere. Then it's Uncensored 97. Bagwell defeats Riggs one more time in a strap match. Okay, from there, Bagwell eventually gets another tag team partner, and it's Scott Flash Norton, and they were calling themselves Vicious and Delicious. They didn't get too far as a tag team. They opened up Road Wild 1997, losing to Harlem Heat. Bagwell was in the NWO War Games team, teaming with Kevin Nash, Sean Waltman, and Conan as they defeated Ric Flair. Well, one of the shortest lived versions of the Four Horsemen: Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Steve McMichael, and Kurt Hennig in a War Games match. Bagwell ended up defeating Lex Luger at Starrcade 97. Then in 1998, Bagwell started hanging around with Scott Steiner, who had recently been repackaged as Big Papa Pump. They teamed up in a losing effort to Lex Luger and Rick Steiner at Spring Stampede 98, and I believe it was a few days later at I don't know if Thunder, the Thursday night show. I don't know if they were live or not. I don't know if they had a rematch or not, but Rick Steiner did the top rope bulldog on Bagwell, and Bagwell got injured. He was paralyzed for quite some time and couldn't even move and had to be stretchered from the ring. Bagwell didn't come back to television until a few months later with his mom, Judy Bagwell. She has since passed on. It looked like Bagwell was going to break away from Scott Steiner and the NWO, but in not a classic tease or swerve, Bagwell realigned with Scott Steiner, even though he still hadn't gotten back in the ring yet, because he didn't wrestle until maybe near the end of 1998. And then, I wouldn't say this was a low point for Buff, but in WCW it was, where at the time Rick Steiner and Kenny Chaos were tag team champions, and they said Kenny Chaos was hurt, and Bagwell's own mother, Judy, replaced Kenny in a match, and I don't know if the match even got started, but Judy was wearing the tag belt, and Rick and Judy cleared the ring of Buff and Scott Steiner. Then in 1999, Scott Steiner and Bagwell, they break away from each other. And then they face each other at Slamboree 1999. Steiner wins thanks to his brother Rick, where the Steiner brothers reunited for the first time in over a year. Then Bagwell kind of got a short-lived thing with Ric Flair, who was the on-air president, and at that point, Flair letting the power go to his head. Bagwell defeats Disco Inferno at a horrible Great American Bash 1999 pay-per-view. Later that night, Flair wrestles the late Roddy Piper, and in another weird swerve, Bagwell comes in and he attempts to, I don't know if he meant to interfere or not, but he pretty much caused Piper to get disqualified, and surprisingly, Flair and Piper double-teamed Bagwell, doing a number on him, and then Flair had named Piper his vice president. Bagwell ended up defeating Piper in I don't know if it was a boxing match or a boxer versus wrestler match at Bash at the Beach 99, another horrible pay-per-view. And believe it or not, folks, that one I have not watched ever. And the match, it should be known, the match was officiated by former boxing referee and a man who went on to become a judge, the late Mills Lane, the man who was known for saying, "Let's get it on." Then from there, Bagwell defeats Ernest the Cat Miller at Road Wild 1999. And so Bagwell was on his own, seemingly finally on his own and already pretty much getting established after having so many tag team partners at this point. As I said, Bagwell defeated Ernest the Cat Miller at Road Wild 99. But then, at the infamous Fall Brawl 1999 pay-per-view, Bagwell was set to do battle with Berlin, which was the repackaged Alex Wright. Now, the plan was for Bagwell to put Berlin over. The trouble was Berlin wanted the match to be a complete squash, where Bagwell would get no offense in. My understanding, Buff bitched and moaned, saying if the match is going to be that way, I'm not going out there. Berlin ended up defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, the silly thing was, they played it off like Bagwell had arrived late to the arena right after the match, but Berlin got the victory over Duggan. Okay? And my understanding, Bagwell actually came out after Duggan lost to see if he was okay. I don't know if Bagwell and Berlin eventually had their match or not. From there, Bagwell was, when the Powers That Be angle began, for those who know, that was Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo, who had came aboard from WCW after spending a number of years in the WWF, being the writers. And Bagwell claiming he was going to be the next big star, and what happened was the night after Halloween Havoc. No, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. It was, that's 6 days before Halloween Havoc 99. Bagwell wrestles La Parka. La Parka wins the match, and after the match is over, Jeff Jarrett had returned from WWF and hits Bagwell with the guitar. From there, at the first ever Mayhem pay-per-view, a month later, Bagwell defeats Kurt Hennig, where the loser had to retire. But like a week or so, I don't know if it was the next night or a week later, it was all a ruse, as Hennig was in the pocket of the powers that be the whole time, as Bagwell, I believe, was attacked. From there, can't remember if Bagwell was on the Starrcade 99 pay-per-view or not. Bagwell then started a little program with Diamond Dallas Page, and they fought each other at Sold Out 2000, and I don't know if it was who was supposed to be the heel in this one. You know, it was over Dallas's wife at the time, Kimberly. Now, they had a last man standing match at Sold Out 2000. Now, the thing is, that pay-per-view is infamous because that was just before that pay-per-view, maybe a week before it happened. I don't know if Vince Russo quit WCW or he was benched and replaced by the late Kevin Sullivan. So, backstage, the day of the show of Sold Out 2000, Bagwell and Dallas are going over their moves. And Mike Graham, yep, the late Mike Graham, never drew a dime. That was his favorite. Everybody remembers him for that famous speech, but of course he was the son of the late Florida promoter Eddie Graham. Mike approaches Bagwell saying, Kevin Sullivan wants to see you. Buff responds by saying, tell him to wait. I'm working with Dallas on moves for our match. Graham tells Buff Sullivan doesn't wait. And my understanding, that led up to a shoving fight between Bagwell and Sullivan that Dallas broke up. And I don't know if Bagwell was off TV after that or was off TV for a time, or he was just not used. But eventually he returned in April 2000, which was shortly after Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff return to launch the New Blood faction and starting off the New Blood Millionaires Club feud. And it was a one-night tournament, Spring Stampede 2000, but it was only like 2 3-way matches and I don't know, it was 2-3. No, it wasn't 2-3 matches, but it was Bagwell and the franchise Shane Douglas. They were paired. Douglas and Bagwell, first they defeat Harlem Heat 2000, which was Stevie Ray and Big T, Ahmed Johnson. They defeat them, and then later in the night, Bagwell and Douglas defeat the team package, which was Ric Flair and Lex Luger, who had late Elizabeth in their corner, and Vince Russo actually made the 3 count, enabling Douglas and Bagwell to win the belts. Now, I'm not so sure if Douglas and Bagwell lost the belts in a match or not, because in May of 2000, Bagwell was defeated at the Slamboree pay-per-view by Lex Luger, and a short time later, I don't know if it was that same week at a Thunder taping, Bagwell attacked a member of the ring crew, I don't know if it was before or after the show, and the ring crew member that was attacked, he claimed Bagwell made a racial slur. Bagwell said the ring crew member was rude to him, and I don't know how. My understanding, action was taken as Bagwell was suspended for 30 days, ending his team with Shane Douglas. Bagwell did return. He and Douglas lost to, I believe, Chronic, Brian Clark, and the late Brian Adams. I could be wrong if they lost to them. That was the night after Great American Bash 2000. Another horrible pay-per-view by WCW. And Douglas attacked Bagwell after they lost their match. And Douglas says, "You're the reason I got screwed for 30 days. They go one-on-one at the infamous, very, very, very infamous Bash at the Beach 2000 pay-per-view, where Douglas defeats Bagwell, and Douglas aligned himself with Tori Wilson, referring to her as his head cheerleader. And, let's see. Yeah, and then from there, the following month was the first and only New Blood Rising pay-per-view. I called that one New Blood Gushing. Because right after that pay-per-view, that's when I think everything in WCW was really falling apart. Bagwell wrestles positively Canyon, the late Chris Canyon, who mocked Diamond Dallas Page in his absence, and Bagwell's mother, Judy, was placed on a forklift. And the only way Bagwell had to win the match to get her off of it, and he did win and get it off it. But my understanding, I don't know if Bagwell's attitude was really steering people the wrong way around this time, because John Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace, I think he started working behind the scenes with WCW at the time. For those who don't know, my understanding, John Laurinaitis is an ass-kissing cocksucker. At least he was when he was working for WWE. He told Bagwell after before, I think it was probably, I don't know if it was before the show, before he went out for the match, he tells Bagwell he's going to be off TV for 30 days. And Bagwell, it was pretty livid about the situation, and he was saying something along the lines of, hey, I'll sit at home, let them pay me till my contract is up. Well, Bagwell did win the match over Canyon at New Blood Rising, And then Bagwell eventually returned as he was accused by David Flair for getting Stacy Keibler pregnant. Another bullshit angle. They eventually fought in a DNA match. Yeah, that sounds like something Vince Russo had his fingerprints all over. And I think it was supposed to be like a first blood match, and I think David Flair managed to. I don't know. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably getting stuff wrong because I can't remember too much. I mean, WCW 2000. Nobody really wants to remember that. But Bagwell, I think David Flair took Bagwell's blood, and eventually turned out Bagwell was not the father of Stacy's baby, and that wound up another angle being dropped. And no, I'm not going to save that for a future Step Through the Ropes topic. Okay. Eventually, Bagwell ends up joining up with Lex Luger, collectively known as Totally Buff, for what turned to be the last tag team he was a part of. Their biggest moment came at the Sin pay-per-view in January 2001, where they defeated Dwayne, Bruce, and Goldberg. Because as a result of the win, Goldberg had to, I don't know if he had to retire or leave WCW, but the reason behind that was Goldberg had to get like some kind of surgery done, so he was going to be out for a while anyway. I know Bagwell and Luger were defeated by Chuck Palumbo and the late Sean O'Haire at WWE's final pay-per-view, Greed, in March 2001. Now, I know I mentioned a lot about Bagwell in between his, every time he was in between tag teams, but what do you folks think? Do you think Buff Bagwell was a tag team wrestler for life? Bagwell, for those who don't know, never held singles championships in WCW. When WCW was bought out by the WWE, Bagwell was there for a very short time. And I understand the WWF locker room, they were taking bets on how long he would last. Some said he wouldn't have made it through the summer, would have been fired around Labor Day. And somebody got it right. Somebody said July 4th, and turned out he was fired July 9th, the day the invasion angle really took off in 2001. Maybe that, I don't know if I'll save that for a future Step to the Ropes topic or not, the invasion angle from 2001. But folks, let me know your thoughts. Buff Bagwell, was he better off as a tag wrestler? Was he tag team wrestler for life, as I said, in WCW? Was he a victim of the politics? Did he have a really bad attitude based on the things that went on in WCW? Let me know, folks. And hopefully I'll have more, try to really, 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 really have more Step to the Ropes topics for you, because I've really been slacking off on doing this. I haven't done, the last one I did was like late last year, so hopefully I'll have more for you. I got a list of them, just it's a matter of time of getting around to them. So folks, let me know what you think, and there'll be more topics.